Hey guys, so today I'm out here in the garden and I cut a bunch of my celery and I'm pulling up some carrots. These aren't super big carrots except that one I got like real fat. Look at that, that's hilarious. But I got some little carrots here and I'm just pulling them up today because look at that one. I'm going to be making chicken noodle soup and canning it. So I'm starting with some stock. If you guys remember, I grew these underneath the tomatoes, which I already pulled the tomatoes. So I don't know if they didn't get super long or, like super long because they were under the tomatoes and they didn't get enough sunlight, or if they just decided to be like my onions this year, oh, that one was barely even a carrot. Anyway, or if they just decided to not really do a whole lot like my onions did. So anyway, this is what I'm doing today, making some stock. What's up? Anyways, I thought if I made some soups that the kids could just heat up their own dinner.
Mommy, can I pick some carrots?
Yeah, you can. Yep, you gotta grab them by the root. Clear down here, like this, and then pull real gentle up so that it brings up the carrot.
This one looks like a potato, guys.
Yeah, kinda. I thought there were some purple ones in here, but...
Purple potato?
Purple carrots. But I haven't come across any yet. So.
This one, look it, guys. Look at these compared.
Yeah.
One looks like a potato and one looks like a carrot.
Yeah. One looks like a potato and one looks like a carrot.
But how does a carrot look like a potato?
It's just the same color is all. Alright, Chloe, I think this is enough. We can go in now. We can use them to make our broth. Okay? Alright, so here's my stock for my chicken noodle soup. And it's got two chickens in it, and onion and celery and some bay leaf. And I'm actually going to add some water to this because I want to have some stock as well as be able to make some chicken noodle soup. And it's pretty strong right now. So I didn't have time yesterday to finish my chicken noodle soup that I was making. So I strained everything off, everything that was, boiling to make my broth. And then I put this pot in the refrigerator full of my broth. This pot's a little smaller than the one that I actually made the broth in. So I'm heating this up, and then I'm heating this up. I'm not going to can in this because you can't can soup in a regular canner. You have to do it in a pressure canner. But I am going to use this to sterilize my jars. And then I'm heating this up, and then I'm going to taste it. And if it doesn't need any salt or extra flavor, I'm going to use it just as it is. And if it tastes like it did yesterday, it's not going to need anything extra. So then I'm going to put it in the jars. So I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I've got my jars in the water, and to sterilize them, they need to be in here for 10 minutes. So I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to let them sit for 10 minutes. And this is boiling. So now I'm actually going to take it off because I'm going to start another pot on here. I'm not just making chicken noodle soup, but I'm also going to be making ham and bean soup today. So I need to get the ham and bean broth started. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. Okay, so guys, I'm going to be using my All-American pressure canner here today, and it calls for a couple inches of water in the bottom, and I will be using bottled water today, and I'll tell you the reason for that. I live out in the country. If I can get this lid off. Hold on a second. Okay, so I live out in the country. Ooh. and my water's really hard. And if you use hard water with your pressure canners, it can actually pit your pressure canners and damage them to the point that you can't use them any longer. So right now, until I am able to have a filtration system that I trust, I use bottled water. So I've got my jars here, they're sterilized. I've got my pressure canner here. I also wanted to tell you guys that something that I've never heard anybody talk about is that with these pressure canners, you actually have to take some olive oil and run it around the edge of your pressure canner regularly to make sure that it's moist enough to seal. You don't have to do it every time you use it, but you do need to do that fairly regularly. And also, these things are cleaned using a steel wool. So I didn't know that, so I had to actually go out and buy some steel wool. You can get a whole box of like 20 of them for a couple of bucks, so it wasn't any major deal, but these do need to be cleaned using steel wool. So those were two things that I had no idea about before I started canning and before I bought this. And I've actually only used this a few times, and you can see it's already getting like stained, and I do scrub it. So and that's with, I've only used my water one time, and then I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous. And so I've used bottled water ever since. And so until I can soften my water, sorry about that, guys, I just had to ask my kid not to play the music in the background. So I don't even remember where I was, but I used my regular water in this one time, and it really stained it. It's not pitted, but I could see how it would get pitted if I continued to use it. You can see here, this hard water rim right here, that's just for me sterilizing these jars using my water. So, yeah. So until I can figure out a way to filter my water well enough, we use bottled water when we're canning in the pressure canner. So I'm going to go ahead and start getting these filled up, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got all my ingredients here. I've got chicken, onions, carrots, and celery, and my broth. So I'm actually, instead of putting this all together as a soup and then putting it in the jars, I am going to, it does smell good. I'm going to fill the jars about halfway full, and then, ooh, those are hot. Fill the jars about halfway full, and then I'm going to finish filling it up with broth. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you guys what we got. Okay, so I've filled my jars about a little over half full with goodies, and now I'm going to put the broth in, and then I'm going to use my handy dandy tool here to go down around them and get any air out of them. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to wipe the rim down with a towel that's got some vinegar on it to make sure there's no grease from the chicken or anything else. And then I'll put my lids on them. Alright, I've got these all filled up, and I got all the air out of them. I wiped all the rims off, and then I put my lids on and I tightened them down finger tight, and now they're going to go into my pressure canner. Okay, so you see here on the lid, there's this line right here, this arrow. That arrow needs to line up with this notch that's right here when you put the lid on. So you can put the lid on. Okay, and it actually, when you go put it on, it doesn't, if you look here, it won't just go on so that it matches up. You actually have to turn it a little bit and then make sure that little hook right there, goes under the little ledge, and then it will line up. See how it lines up here? So then you're going to go and you're going to do, sorry, my stove's not nearly big enough for this, I swear. So you're going to put these on, put these up. All of them will go up. Well, all of them are supposed to go up, but if they keep falling off, that's kind of a hassle. All right, and then you want to make sure that you see this here. This here needs to be the same size all the way around. Okay, you don't want like, if you put the lid on crooked, right, then it'll be higher here than it is, like back here. Okay, so you don't want that. So part of the way you can keep from getting that is, well, one, when you seat your lid on here to begin with, make sure that it looks even, right? And then you're going to tighten down your things. I just do them a little bit at a time, and you do them like from one side to the next, right? You don't do them all at the same time. See? So you need to do these here, and then you want to come over here, and then you want to come like back here, and you want to come up here, you want to come back here again, and you want to come up here again. So then this should look fairly even all the way around, so that you know that your canner, and you just want these finger tight. You don't want to like crank them on there, and you might not ever get your lid off. So, and something else that I forgot to tell you, before you use your lid, you want to make sure that you look and make sure that you can see through this right here. Okay, that's your vent, and it can get clogged, especially if you have hard water. You can get clogged up with calcium and lime and rust, and so I've already got this heated. So now we're just going to wait for a steady stream to start coming out of this. And I've found that with this one, you can't see the steam so much as you can hear it. Like, I don't know if you guys can see. There's a little steam that's coming out of there right now. But when it's really coming out as a steady stream, you'll be able to hear it coming out as a steady stream. You won't hear any spitting or sputtering. It's just psh, right, when it's coming out. And that's when it's okay to put your weight on, okay? And you need to make sure you know what your altitude is. I think if you're over like 1,000 feet, then it's 15 psi, but we are not. So here it is 10 pounds of pressure. So you need to make sure that when you put your weight on, you put it on the right pounds. And then you'll actually have to turn your stove down. Nobody told me this, right? I'm like, why is my thing jiggling nonstop and practically jumping off the thing when I put it on there? Well, it's because once it gets hot, it doesn't need as much heat. Like, you turn it up to get it hot, and then to keep it hot, it doesn't need as much heat. So you actually end up turning your stove down so that this thing only jiggles a couple of times a minute. It shouldn't be like going crazy looking like it's going to jump off, okay? I read the directions. It's not supposed to do that. You need to turn your heat down until you figure out where it needs to be so that it's only rattling a couple of times a minute, not rattling nonstop. Once you put this on, then you're going to check this here. And it's going to take some time for it to get up to the 10-pound mark. See there, the 10? Or if you have 15, it'll get up to 15. So we need to get it up to the 10. It's going to take a few minutes for it to get up to that 10 once you put that weight on there. Okay? And then after it gets to that 10, that's when you can start the timer. And for this, we need 90 minutes. So it's probably going to take 2 to 3 hours. Okay? Because you got to get this so that it's a steady stream coming out of here, and then you got to get this so that it's up to 10, right? Then you have to cook it. It's 90 minutes with this at 10, and you have to watch it to make sure that you don't need to turn your heat down just a little bit, right? You don't want it to go below 10, but you also don't want it to be creeping up here towards 15, okay? So you got to watch it. You don't want to just walk away from this. So that's going to take 90 minutes while it's at the 10 mark, okay? And then after that, you turn the heat off, right? And you let it sit and sit and sit and sit until this comes all the way down to 0. This is not a quick process, you guys. This goes all the way down. That might take an hour, I'm not kidding. It might take an hour for this to go all the way down to 0. Once that's at 0, as soon as you see that it hits 0, you need to be watching this. You need to take your weight off here, right? You're gonna get a little bit of because there's just a teeny bit of steam that's still in there, right? But don't take it off before that or you're gonna get hurt. Okay, it's gonna depressurize too fast. Okay, so when this goes to 0, you need to take the weight off. What you don't want to do is walk away from it, have it hit 0, right? Have it hit 0, and then you not take the weight off of it. Because if you don't take that weight off of it, it's going to create a vacuum seal on your canner. Not just on your cans, but on your canner. And then you're going to have a really hard time getting that weight off and being able to open your pressure canner. Okay, it pressurizes the canner too, not just your jars. So don't just walk away from it. You need to be vigilant and watch this. I mean, yeah, you're not going to stand here for 30 or 90 minutes while it's going down, but you can watch it and get an idea of how long it takes it to get all the way down to 0. Okay? And don't go picking this thing up and moving it. Okay? That's not a smart idea. This thing is pressurized. Okay? Don't go wrapping it in cold towels to try and bring it down faster. Okay? That's a really bad idea. Somebody's going to get hurt. You just have to have patience. You have to sit and you have to wait. Alright, so because this is a non-stop stream, you hear that? Okay, now I can put this weight on at 10. There we go. Now I'm going to turn this down because I know that it doesn't need to be that high to keep this thing rocking and rolling. And this thing will start rocking and rolling when this hits 10. And well, then it's already pressurized. So see, as you can see, it's going up. And once it hits 10, that's when I need to make sure that that thing's not rocking and rolling more than a few times a minute. If it is, I can turn the heat down some more. So, and as you guys can see, I'm using a glass cooktop, right? And it stains. I don't know if that's my hard water or just like burn or whatever, but it doesn't matter how much I scrub it, it doesn't come off. So, but I use my glass cooktop. And these are advertised to be able to be used on a glass cooktop, and it does just fine. So when you take off this thingy, you're wearing a oven mitt, or you have an oven mitt or something that you can use to grab it with because it's going to be hot. So we are at 0 now. 0. So I'm going to go ahead and... You see, there's still some pressure in there, even after it goes to 0. Alright, so here's my jars of chicken noodle soup. And there's no noodles in there. You shouldn't put the noodles in until after. There's plenty of liquid in there. We can add a little bit more liquid when we put it in our pan. Put the noodles in, add a little salt and pepper, and it will be ready to go. So this will be like a 15-minute meal, which is why I'm making these. I'm making these so that when I can't be home, the kids can have something quick and easy that they can just throw into the pot and have a nice, yummy, delicious meal. So, and while I was waiting for these to depressurize, I loaded these up with the remaining broth. So these are just broth. They need to go into the pressure canner for 25 minutes. And then while those are depressurizing, I have all this stuff ready to put together for my ham and bean soup. So the ham, I just cut it up. It'll probably go in the refrigerator until it's ready. So, but I've got my broth and my onions and everything ready to go into the next round for ham and bean soup. So, there you go, guys. That's how you can soup.